The United States is planning to deploy some 200 additional troops to Nigeria in what officials describe as a training and intelligence support mission. Now, this particular move has revived debate about sovereignty, foreign military presence, and Nigeria's long-term security strategy. This is coming after earlier U.S. airstrikes targeting terrorists in Sokoto state. Actions Nigerian authorities say followed intelligence sharing between both countries. Like I did say, this is a development that has both the pros and cons. People excited that a solution is around the corner, while some express some level of concern about what this actually means for Nigeria's big picture around national security and regional stability, because more often than not, where the U.S. goes, the trouble sometimes does multiply. A security analyst and retired Wing Commander Musa Salmanu will be joining the conversation this evening to help us make sense of what has been happening between Nigeria and the United States since that CPC declaration last year. Wing Commander, it's good to see you again. Thank you so much for stopping by on the program.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Good evening, viewers.
Right. As a Nigerian, your initial thoughts on this latest development, that we're going to get more troops in Nigeria. However, they have used military language to say, listen, this is for support, for training, for intelligence building, and so on and so forth. As someone who has served, what do you make of this?
Well, so I'm going to look at it from two perspectives, closely related. One, as you asked the question, as a Nigerian, someone that is from the north. And perhaps then the second one from my own professional experience, having served alongside some, particularly American troops. For just context, I trained in the United States Air Force for over a year, although it's a professional military education. I did my staff course there. So I trained with some of the best soldiers then, or officers then at the rank of major and lieutenant colonel. Now, having said that, this type of operation or cooperation has been existing for quite a long time. There is either through sales or through collaboration or through sharing of intelligence or through so many other bilateral diplomatic and even diplomatic exchanges that happen between countries. This has been happening with the United States. Like I said, I'm a beneficiary of that. And so because there is always something to learn. Militaries go on training with one another because it's a similar job, but because
different experiences,
different based on technology, based on exposure, and so on and so forth. So in that regards, there's so much to learn from the United States Air Force and the United States military because they have the capabilities to do certain jobs and so on and so forth, especially intelligence and the offensive capability. And also what we lack, which is the ability to move from point A to point B. All these are very important when you're fighting the type of war that we've been fighting. Now, there is the other aspect, which is a lot, like you said, a lot of Nigerians are showing concern and so on. And that is because the narrative, and I keep saying this, that the narrative has been caught in a way that that's Nigeria on its side, did not own that narrative. We allowed the narrative to go in a way that was being shaped by the American government or the American side, and possibly for American audience. Now, so we allow that to spiral into something and just doing a catch-up. So so it becomes very difficult. First of all, some of this, but I'm seeing a lot of catch-up and a lot of. I hope it will be very proactive in that, so that some of this information we get them only when they have been stated by the American side, and we know right from last year. There have been, or middle up to late last year, there have been a narrative that is so divisive when it comes locally. It might be, now, to be fair to them, that's those that are creating the narrative, or the Americans that have the narrative. They have their own audience.
You're talking about the
local
Christian
audience.
genocide claim.
Yes, the issue of Christian genocide. Now, if you put that, and this is something that the Nigerian part is saying that, no, this is not happening, and you're now basing everything that you're doing, surrounding it around that, then it leaves a lot for people. It leaves the main focus, or what we should be focusing on. That is the issue of capacity, trying to enhance the capacity of the Nigerian forces to fight insurgency. Now it leaves that, which is very crucial, which is, we have all agreed that all Nigerians are united in that irrespective of who is the perpetrator or who is the victim, that we are all saying enough of this. And there's that feeling that government has not been responsive enough in that realm. Now, how you frame something, that the narrative is equally as important as what you end up doing, because you could, if you lose the narrative, you're losing a large portion of Nigerians that feel targeted, that feel unjustly either being branded. All of a sudden you start hearing issue of anybody that try to ask questions, anybody that says, that shows maybe reservations, is either being branded in a name that makes them to feel, well, let's just pull back so that we're not branded either terrorist sympathizer and so on and so on. So honestly, I think it's very important that we look at the technical part of it, which is to support the capacity, to improve capacity of the Nigerian security forces to be able to confront terrorism. But the narrative, and which is very important, is what we are lacking in. And we have to step up on that.
And there's a big question about who is in the driver's seat. Is it the United States or is it Nigeria calling the shots? And what is your reading of that? Because this is the second or third time, to my recollection, where the United States, the information filters from the United States, because this was a reporting done by the New York Post, although the Defense Headquarters or Ministry of Defense has confirmed this particular development, but we're always hearing from the Americans first, whether it was the attack in Sokoto State, for instance, or this subsequent deployment of some 200 U.S. troops to add to those who are already on the ground. How does the dynamic look to your understanding? Are we partners in this, or are we just taking orders from the United States?
Well, the truth is a partnership is a very big word, or a very big term that you can use. In the partnership, there could be the nuances to that partnership. What we have been seeing, and that's what I'm talking about, the narrative, is that there is that perception. And now, something about perception is that it could be right, it could be wrong. Now, the perception is out there that we are definitely not the drivers of this initiative, whatever it is, that we are reacting. And it goes by, even, like you said, the information, we just do a follow-up and say, okay, we agree, and so on and so on and so forth. But we need to change that, because we have to be more transparent about this. We have to be more forthright about the information. Now, I understand there is the issue of information security and so on, and operational security and so on and so on. But there are issues that we know that are going to be a thin line between, like I said, the tactical and operational aspect and the either strategic or even the political implication of what is happening. Now, if we allow ourselves, the least that we can do is that whenever this is happening, we release the same statements at the same time, or joint statements and so on. But a situation whereby we are always doing either, okay, it's mute from our own side until something happens or whatever, or we say, oh, yeah, we agree that it's so and so on. It seems that it's given the impression, and it might be wrong, but perception is key. It's given the impression that this is being decided elsewhere, and action is perhaps or probably being taken then we are told, or we have to just to play along for so many reasons and so on. So whatever it is, we have to up our game. We have to take hold of the narrative. We have to own this oppression because, first of all, it's happening in our territory. It is us asking for it. It is us, so we have to own it. We have to say,
is that necessarily the truth of the matter? Is Nigeria asking for it? I mean,
well, that's what is out there, and we perhaps, if I have heard in both on the sides of the Americans and Nigeria to say that we are the one asking for it. And if you look at it, for example, if you've been fighting something for 10, 20 years, and you're not making progress, perhaps it's time to start saying, let me look for help. However, in looking for help, you have to decide you have to decide that perhaps there are no-go areas. There are, you have to seek for this help in a way that shows a dignified help, or assistance.
So some would say, let's check the American record on the African continent, especially. I mean, you don't have to go to the Middle East to talk about Afghanistan, to talk about Iraq, Libya, and all the others. But Somalia, for instance, the Americans have been helping out for quite some time, and Al-Shabaab still remains a threat beyond the borders of Somalia. Their participation in Niger, for instance, did not necessarily mitigate those security concerns up until the government itself was toppled and the Americans and the French were eventually pushed out. Realistically, what can we expect from this partnership in terms of deliverables? Because we've also seen a certain spike in attacks, especially in the North Central, which impacts states like Plateau and Benue State, for instance, which is where the conversation around Christian genocide has centered significantly from the American representatives who were here last year and during their fact-finding mission. Talk to me about what the deliverables can be in situations like this. And also, just as a follow-up to that question, have we ever seen this many U.S. military personnel in Nigeria for such scale of operations?
At least not that I'm aware of, or know that I have read. Starting from your last question, I've not read of such a huge number of presence, and we don't know even to the extent, because even though we're told that they will not be engaged in offensive action, they will be in terms of intelligence and surveillance and so on and so forth. And now it beggars the question, do you need that number for intelligence and so on, and what sort of intelligence that required? Now, that is a different conversation on itself. Now, talking about history also of American involvement in other countries and so on, and what has been the jury is out there, and honestly, that's why some people have been, the pushback that you've gotten, that it might be coincidence, it might not be the plan, that wherever you see these forces, it's like the instances you gave in Somalia and in Niger, even in Niger, you find out that a fundamental thing that we have to be careful about is you can't outsource your own security to someone else. It's like in your own home, you can't outsource the feeding of your own kids and whatever to somebody. And so he might come with all the good intentions, he might have all that it takes and so on, but there's supposed to be that bond between, that bond that exists between so on, which the truth is that it doesn't exist if it's an external body. So, and that's where it goes back to where I'm saying that we have to own this. If we are seeking for assistance, and there's nothing wrong, because that is anticipated that at some point there could be bilateral arrangements and so on and so forth. If we're doing that, then we have to lead in a way. We have to take ownership of this partnership, and we have to ensure that it's done in a way that that we do not lose the narrative. If its history is anything to be about, to go about, then I'll say that it's something that we have to be very, very, very very, very meticulous in executing.
Right. And talk to me about intentions here, because the Americans, as you said, their audience is different from the audience of the Nigerian government. Their intentions, albeit one that is presented as altruistic, so to say, because they are protecting a community that they believe they share the same faith and belief systems with. Do you think there is a perfect alignment between the hopes, wants and expectations of the Nigerian government and the Americans who are coming in to defend the Christian population? So the Nigerian government, by the way, has officially denied are facing genocide.
So let's start from there. So if there is no unity in terms of, when I say unity in terms of the original
purpose,
intent, then there must be recalibration of that to say, okay, are we aligned in what we seek to achieve? Now, what does success look like? What is the intention? What future are we trying to create from this? Now, until we calibrate that and agree that we are speaking from the same point, that we're trying or seeking to achieve the same objective, then there's going to be the partnership, as we call it, is going to be very, I don't want to call it toxic, but it's going to be a bit kind of problematic.
Right.
But then, you see, politics is local in everywhere. Now, we have to also understand from where the Americans are coming. The American society, by nature, is such that, and it's not because they want to be divisive, but that's how the society is. In America, you're an American, but you're a black American or African American. You are a Hispanic American. So in American society, that is a coloration. I don't want to call it division. That name or whatever is always attached to somebody, not because it is divisive. Now, if you carry that same narrative down here, even in the U.S., you are a Pentecostal, you are a Catholic, and so on and so forth. So in American society, which is normal to them, you are either white, you're black, you're this, you're that. There must be something that is attached to you. In Nigeria, we have grown not caring if you are Yoruba, Nigerian. We don't say that. That's not how we call ourselves. We don't say, if not now, and so. So if we allow that narrative to come in, here when it comes in, it's complete divisive. It's a complete antagonism. It's a complete way of saying that you are the other, and it's not me. Now, if we allow that narrative, the Americans, like you say, might be altruistic and saying that we are coming to save people and so on and so forth. But the way it is being coined and the way that narrative is being set out, it is alien to our Nigerian to our Nigerian way of life.
Right.
And until we are able to agree on how even these terminologies and so on will be coined, then there's problem with the partnership.
Okay. Before we wrap things up, there are other major players on the international scene that Nigeria has some sort of bilateral agreement or arrangements when it comes to military and security related matters. The United States is one, the United Kingdom, China, Turkey, India, Russia. And you get the sense that some of them are quite strategic. The one with Turkey is around Defense Cooperation Protocol, which was signed a couple of weeks ago. India is around Strategic Security Cooperation, Military Cooperation Agreement with Russia that covers arms cooperation as well as training. And it's safe to say that when you talk about geopolitics, the big guys are always using the smaller guys. In this case, Africa, East Asia, and all the other parts, even in Europe, as we can see with Russia and Ukraine, as proxy players in this game of chess. How does the United States doubling down in its military cooperation with Nigeria affect some of our partnerships with China, India, Russia? These are key allies in a group that is basically trying to bring an end to the petrodollar, which is America's biggest international success so far.
Well, so a bit about...
I'm talking about the BRICS countries.
A bit about diplomacy here, or foreign policy. Nigeria, as we know, has been in the non-aligned foreign policy. That means we have decided as a deliberate policy, foreign policy directive to ensure that we are not particularly aligned to any of the superpowers. And because of that, we deal and trade with all of them, and so on and so forth. But we know that the reality is that all of those superpowers, or each of those superpowers, is trying to edge the other. Now, if you look at the geostrategic location of Nigeria, that's in terms of geography. If you look at also other indices and so on and so forth, you see that Nigeria has been, or is likely to be, a prize that is being sought after by all. Now, what I want to advise, and Dokin, is that Nigeria shouldn't forget how it has survived the Cold War. That we should know that dancing amorously, if I'll put it that way, towards one or any of this has been something that we have deliberately refused to do since the 60s when we became independent. And I don't know if we have decided, if we have changed that as a foreign policy objective, or what exactly are we doing? Are we taking into cognizance the fact that that might hurt us in the... Now, whatever is happening, are we protecting our own national interest? That is the question that I'm sure that we should ask. Right. Policymakers should ask themselves, the military should ask themselves, and including the civilian political leadership should ask, are we, in all this, actually looking after the national interest of Nigeria?
And the unanswered questions continue to pile up. Retired Wing Commander Salmanu, thank you so much for joining the conversation.
Thank you for having me today.
It's good to see you again. I appreciate the analysis. All right, that is all for tonight's edition of Daily Politics. We'll be back tomorrow live at 8 p.m. exclusive as always on Trust TV. Until next time, I'm Abdullahi Ahmed. From myself and the rest of the team, thank you for joining us. We'll see you soon.